So are
Oh,
we on or what?
greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and today I welcome you to another edition of Hercules and the Space Gods. This show is dedicated to the memory of Erich von Daniken, who inspired many legends and changed the world, especially our worlds. And today I've gathered a bunch of explorers into ancient mysteries and other rare things, and we're going to be discussing how he influenced our lives. So I'm going to start, as with all things, with Tim Schwartz. Greetings, Tim.
Hi, Hercules. Thank you for having me on today. I really appreciate it.
And I appreciate you being here.
All right. Do you want me to start? Or you got to go and introduce the other guests here.
No, we're gonna start, and then I'll give each guest their own introduction today.
Okay, great. Well, I'll get started then and not belabor this too much, but welcome, everyone. And I'm greeting you all from beautiful Arctic southern Indiana, where we didn't get snow like the panhandle of Florida, but it's so cold. I saw penguins flying north for the winter, so that's uh, that's how cold it is going to be tonight. But we're talking about Erich von Daniken, and thank you for that for that laugh, Alan. I appreciate that. Always nice to have a fan somewhere. Um, we're talking about Erich von Daniken, and like a lot of us, I can't remember how old I was when I first ran across Chariot of the Gods. It hadn't been out too long, and I was visiting an aunt and uncle, and they actually had a paperback copy of this book, and I had never heard of Van Daniken before. Now, I was familiar with the whole concept of ancient astronauts because by that point, I had already read books by like I think what was it, The Sky People by Brinsley Lepore Trench, and at least one, maybe two books by the authors of The Morning of the Magicians, and I could never even try to pronounce their names. They were French and translated into English. So I was somewhat familiar already with the whole concept of ancient aliens. But I think it was Van Daniken's book, along with everyone else, that really opened my eyes to that concept. And it wasn't maybe just a couple of years later that a cheapo movie company called Sun International actually made a movie called Chariots of the Gods that I remember going to see at like a Saturday matinee in my hometown. And that was even more revealing with this concept. Now, as time wore on, and I became more familiar with the subject and actually managed to travel around the world to some of these locations that von Daniken popularized as being possible constructs with the help, if not entirely, by so-called visitors from other worlds. That I begin to doubt somewhat everything that von Daniken wrote about. No, it's not saying that I didn't believe what he was trying to put out there, because I do think that the Earth has been visited, in the past. By some other non-human intelligence, whether they be extraterrestrial, interdimensional, time travelers, what have you. But I think this popular idea that that has come about because of von Daniken's work, and I don't even think that von Daniken has pushed some of these ideas, like say the Great Pyramids in Egypt were constructed by ancient aliens. I mean, I don't believe that. I think that does a disservice to how smart the human species is, and when we have the capability, to do something fantastic, we are up for it and we are able to do it. How? That's still up to debate, but I don't think every ancient mystery in the past can be attributed to ancient aliens. But I think that Von Daniken really hit a nerve with the general public and opened their eyes to the idea that that we may not be alone in the universe. I mean, we had already had the whole UFO mystery going on for quite a while by the time Von Daniken's book came out. But he was the one that really popularized the idea, despite the fact that other people had been there first. But it was Von Daniken and Chariot of the Gods and his other books that really got people to thinking, well, uh, maybe we were visited. Maybe we were somehow, um, maybe our evolution had been forced by aliens. There's a great book that was written by Otto Binder, who was he wrote for comic books, and but he also wrote about UFOs, and Otto Binder had this really excellent book that, and he attributed his interest at one point to von Daniken's work, even though I think that Binder was writing about this stuff before von Daniken. But Otto Binder was one of the first that I ever read that talked about the whole hybridization of people and the human race. So. I think one of the books that really got me kind of questioning how much research that von Daniken actually conducted was with his work was a book called Gold of the Gods. And fascinating book, but if you read it and then as some people did at the time, look into some of his claims, especially with these ancient caves in South America, South and Central America, that supposedly had these ancient artifacts that could be attributed to extraterrestrial human contacts. His claims kind of fell through. And I don't know if he ever quite recovered from that. Now, I had the pleasure a couple of times to talking with Von Daniken. Unfortunately, never got to meet him face to face. But I always found him sincere. I always found him interested in the subject. I mean, despite the fact that by the time that I came around to talk to him, that his name had been drug in and out of the mud several times, if not more. But he stood by his convictions, and I always admired him for that. And really, up to right now, and the reason that we are doing this show today, because unfortunately he passed away not too long ago, is the fact that von Daniken, as I said previously, opened all of our collective eyes to the idea that that maybe we're not alone, in the universe, and that maybe UFOs are not a recent event, are not something that just happened in, like 1947, but had been part of the human condition right from the very beginning, maybe even before we crawled or fell out of the trees. And that is something that I think that von Daniken should be applauded for. I mean, he may have got some of his facts wrong, but the fact that he led us to where we are today and tonight, talking about him with this whole concept of extraterrestrials and maybe our part in these contacts with not only Earth, but maybe other worlds as well, that we're not alone and that we are just as much a part of all of this. And I cherish that idea, and I cherish the ideas that Erich von Daniken gave us. Mark, excuse me. And I'll leave it at that, Hercules.
Thank you very much. And I forgot to say that Tim is a writer, a researcher, a publisher, a speaker in much demand, and he's been on Ancient Aliens and a lot of these shows. So Tim is very well known. Thank you very much, Tim. That was an awesome introduction, as all your introductions are.
Thank you, Hercules.
And now we move on to the magician among us, Alan Greenfield, who has an intimate knowledge of other dimensions and other worlds. Alan, what are your thoughts about Erich von Daniken?
Well, I don't know why, but I was a little bit shocked that he had died because he seemed to be a background figure in everything that we did. And as I said in my little tribute to him on, I think it was on Facebook, but it's gone viral. The reality is that von Daniken was not by any means the first person to discuss the possibility of high-tech visitations from elsewhere in the universe. But he was, uh, 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 how shall I put this? He was the one who got the broader public to think about that with Chariot of the Gods. And I mentioned that I was doing this program to uh, a another senior magician, and to my astonishment, because magicians should know better, he said, "Oh well, von Daniken before he got into this stuff was uh, imprisoned for fraud about something entirely different." And I said, "Well, yes, I've heard that." And so, because uh, while he was not the originator, the fact is that his personal history is a lot less important than what he accomplished in terms of awareness, not just among the broader public, but among many investigators. I mean, out of the Jim Mosley's discussion and lecture committee in Manhattan came a group called the Consultants Committee on Semitic Philology. Well, what does Semitic philology have to do with any of this? Well, two of the major movers and shakers in that was Jack Robinson and Rabbi Yonah Ibn Aaron, also known as Yonah Fortner, who were part of the Mosley Circle. And they were postulating as far back as the 1950s something that Zechariah Sitchin did much later, which was retranslating ancient documents in the light of current uh, understandings about non terrestrial origins. And it seemed to me that they were, when Chariot of the Gods came out, and I, bought it right away. In fact, somebody sent me a copy of the cover from the original edition of that. It was a sensation at the time. And as Tim alluded, as time has gone by, his star faded. But still, what he set in motion, Yonah did not do that. Sitchin, to a lesser extent, may have done that later. But von Daniken was the root out of which the whole tree of the concept of ancient aliens, to borrow the History Channel's version of it, grew and continues to grow. Now, most people who know where I'm coming from think correctly that I am not so big on the idea of ET, but UT. And that's not some urological disorder, that's ultra terrestrial. And I think that that is probably the case. I also think that what von Daniken was interpreting as um, extraterrestrial visitations, somewhat along the same lines that Tim was going there. I think human beings are quite capable of doing and have been capable of doing for hundreds of thousands of years, which begs the question, how come the oldest civilization created by human beings is tens of thousands of years less than when the human mind had developed into our present state of intelligence, like military intelligence. So maybe the real truth of this is that there were pre existing human civilizations that were relatively advanced technologically, probably more so philosophically, and that, I don't know, the last ice age or the purported Younger Dryas period resulting from a extraterrestrial collision with a comet or an asteroid kind of obliterated all knowledge of that. And have I done 10 minutes here? Because
Yeah, just
bottom,
about. You got a minute or two more.
okay, bottom line, I think that that von Daniken was thinking of this in terms of extraterrestrial intelligence, and I think it may have been actually evidence of pre-existing human civilizations that have been pretty much obliterated by, I don't know, the precession and recession of the ice sheets during the last ice age, but also when ice sheets uh, recede, the oceans increase, and human civilizations, right down to the present time, uh, tend to be their major accomplishment are on coastal areas. And the coasts of 10,000, 12,000 years ago are under a great deal of water, and also with all of the agitation of salt water, have probably left very little in the way of remains. That said, I think von Daniken needs to be memorialized, and I don't give a tinker's damn whether he had a previous history of, I don't know, embezzling money from the hotel that he worked for. It just seems like that is missing the point. And we teach that in magical circles, to wit, the four manifestations of the magus, which are um, the, I don't know what word to use, the crook, the juggler, the magician, and the magus being the most advanced. He was certainly a ne'er-do-well. Crook may be too strong, but and he probably was a juggler of facts. Whether he was a magician or not, I don't know. He certainly was not a magus, but he did perform one great magical act. The cluelessness of most people about the history of alien human encounters continues to be something that we owe an historical debt to Erich von Daniken. May he rest in peace.
Thank you very much. That was eloquently stated. I'm gonna ask a favor, Alan. I think you have a TV on or something on the screen. If you could turn that off because they wouldn't let me post something because somebody had like background music that we couldn't even hear.
I
So
don't even know why that's there, but okay.
I thought
Is
it
it
was
gone?
I thought it was part of the overall effect that you were putting on.
No, no, no. The only thing that's part of the effect are these uh,
Freemason guys.
Dr. D summoning a ghost.
Oh, very cool. Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
Next, we're going to go to Michael uh, K. Waterman, who's also known as Setna of Khemet, and who's part of the Order of Michael, where Michaels get together and discuss angelology. Greetings, Setna. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Unlike the rest of the world, I'm not, and except for Paul, I'm not freezing. It's about 52 degrees here. I see Paul's even got a hat on. Good heavens! Well, I have also. Um, I did get a chance to see Eric in person. He came to Nassau Community College in 1977. He lectured. I bought the book Chariots of the Gods and I was all excited. I was taking a quote unquote occult class, and they brought up the concept of aliens and other interesting things. I also had met Hans Holzer at the same time. Alan, if you want to talk about people who are, um, how shall I say, hucksters or shysters or whatever, um, I went with. Um, I went to the Amityville house with Hans Holzer, and we got there, and all the different paranormal events that were supposed to be there were not showing up. And then later on, he writes the Amityville Horror 2, which he completely, in real life, was saying, oh, none of that really exists because of this, this, and this. So that was kind of an interesting thing. Mr. Von Daniken was talking about his show, his book and things. I never got a chance to say hello to him. There were mobs, of course, at the college from different places, but I thought he spoke well. He had a very convincing, I would say, argument for what he was saying, and it was very well thought out and very well put together. So that was my take on him. Like, wow, I thought here this guy has a good idea as far as ancient aliens. Well, almost every ancient culture, and I'm going to defend the Egyptians, of course, they talked about the sky people. And so you see the same thing in Thailand and in Peru and in Mexico. And certainly Hercules will defend the Olympians as saying they came from the sky also. The Egyptians talk about Isis coming from the area around the star Sirius. Osiris, her quote unquote brother, came from around Orion's belt. So, the ancients were aware that there might have been, and, teachers at least from somewhere else. Something else that I just saw on the History Channel this afternoon, or actually last night, rather late. The papyrus, there were like 9 papyruses just found within the last week or so, and they actually talk about how the pyramids were built, the Great Pyramid was built, and about the hard work and the labor. And I'm going to agree with Paul. It wasn't from space aliens. It wasn't from things. It was from people who worked their tails off for 40 years to build those things. And they weren't slaves. The ancient Egyptian farmers, the people that had the days when the Nile was not going to overflow, worked out of religious respect for the pharaoh to build that pyramid in order, because it was a sacred building. No one who was not of their religion would be allowed to touch the building. There were no slaves. They were farmers and they were hard workers. And I want to give them that honor and that respect. Um, as far as the rest of things, well, Paul, I keep telling you, I keep seeing alien little things flashing around, not too far from where I live here in Savannah. We're getting all kinds of. They look like little white cigar shaped. Um, I don't know what, but they're there for 5 minutes and then they're gone. And I mean literally 5 minutes. You'll see them going across the sky, back and forth, and then they disappear. Now, if that's not a chariot of the gods, I don't know what is. Hercules?
You're done? Okay, thank you very much. That was excellent, and everything's coming together like pieces of a puzzle, including our belief, which I share, that humanity was smart enough to create a lot of the wonders of antiquity, and it didn't need intervention from outer space or other dimensions to produce some
I
of the.
mean, I believe that we did have help, but I think that, the sweat of our brow, the chiseling of rocks and things, we did it ourselves. We looked at things and said, you know what? That's going to work. Did somebody teach us about geometry? Maybe, but we actually did it. We put it together. The human race did it.
I second that.
So mote it be.
Thank you very much, sir. Next, we have another Michael K. Actually, Michael Koff. Greetings and welcome to this conversation. I'm glad that you're here.
Yes, thank you for having me. And I have to say, being a metaphysical paranormal investigator background and seeking truth and seeing the world as being something other than what we're told in a book that it is, I have to say that Erich von Daniken was instrumental, I think, in the fact that his book, Chariots of the Gods, and his other books, although they may not be totally factual, they opened people's minds. They opened people's awareness and brought about the reality of we're not alone out here in the world. There are others out there that are here to help us or here to harm us, and he brought it into mainstream news, so to speak, into mainstream thought to where people who normally you would say, "Oh, what do you think of aliens?" Oh, no, no, we're not talking about that. After Eric in his book and and bringing about ancient aliens theory and the show, although I don't know how much in the show he actually took part in, but it was based on his theories. People started talking about this around their tables. It became an okay subject to talk about. And you weren't in fear of being put in a loony bin or being mocked. And so that is, to me, the great legacy that Eric is leaving to us is have these conversations, talk about this. And, he never said, what I'm writing is pure fact, but it made us think. And so that's the gift, I think, of Erich von Daniken is opening the awareness and reminding people, think for yourselves. Take what you think, research it, investigate it, find out if it's real or not. Does it, back up what you believe? Does it change what you believe? If it does, great. If not, okay. It's still there. It's just a theory. And so that to me, I felt was the great gift that Eric left humanity was it's okay to talk about this and do talk about it. Do think for yourself.
Thank you very much. Very eloquently said. It reminded me of a interview I saw early on in von Daniken's career, where he pointed out that the title "Chariots of the Gods" has a question mark in it, and that if you look at his book, he's asking questions. He's asking, could it be that there were visitors from outer space that were doing this? And he confided, which I'd never seen him admit before, that he was actually very religious, so he didn't lose his concept of the god of religion, but he was looking at the mythological tales of other people, and including the ones found in the ancient Near East that we call biblical. So I thought that was interesting. Thank you very much.
Yes, and one thing I'd like to also add is, since you pointed out like having the question mark on Chariots of the Gods, one thing that he made me think about when I was going back and doing research on mythos of different cultures is look at the frame of when this is built. So if you have, like, they talk about Apollo and he rides this chariot through the sky. Well, if you see a craft or a flaming object going across the sky, and this is in ancient times, you're not going to sit there and go, oh, look, there's a craft in the sky. You're going to view it as a mode of transportation, and you're like, well, what transportation do we have? Chariots. Oh, look, there's a chariot in the sky. We interpret it as thinking, oh, there's literally chariots in the sky. No, it's a vehicle. And so that, I just wanted to point out, that's what Eric did for me, was to make me realize, yeah, we have to think in terms of when this was written, what the perspective and knowledge of the time was, and look at it through those eyes.
Very good point. And the chariot analogy, in terms of flaming or light things going through the sky, extends beyond Apollo. Phaeton, who is the son of Helios, who was also a driver of the chariot of the gods. He didn't drive very well and caused a lot of damage to the earth, as well as to losing his life. Hercules for all drove the sun chariot, and there was also other deities who had their turn at the chariot of the gods. And in the Homeric hymn to Ares, there's a reference to the chariot that Ares drives through the sky. So thank you again.
Yes, thank you.
And now we're going to go to another newcomer to this conversation, Diana Montford. Greetings and welcome, Diana.
Greetings. Hello. What a fascinating conversation. Well, I first became aware of Chariot of the Gods when I was about 12 or 13. My father was very much into all things psychic and metaphysical, and he bought the book, and I read it, and I found it fascinating. And I do think that Eric opened up an amazing venue of conversation for people out there who weren't usually into these things, who would, have said, as I think Paul said, or someone said, off to the loony bin with you. But this made it acceptable. And, I do believe that we were seeded by the Anunnaki. I do believe that civilizations have come and gone. Right off Bimini, under the water, supposedly are the remnants of part of Atlantis. So said Edgar Cayce. So I do think that probably we did build the pyramid. And Edgar Cayce said that we did it via sound vibration. That is why the stones fit so perfectly. And that we might have been taught by extraterrestrials. But I don't see how anyone can be arrogant enough to think that we are the only people, the only beings in the universe. That would be ridiculous. And we're such hostile, warlike apes that how could we possibly be the only beings in the universe? And I totally admire Eric. He's working as a hotel manager. He's dealing with ridiculous complaints like, I don't have any towels in my room, and he's writing this book at night and on weekends. And he's 32 years old when it's published. You really have to admire this man, working a full-time job, which is full of stress, writing this book at such a young age. What did he know that most people did not know? Now, Carl Sagan despised the book and despised Eric, and would make disparaging remarks about his theories and all sorts of things. But being a great believer in conspiracy theories, wouldn't it be funny if Carl had been told by the U.S. government, look, you have to debunk this guy. You can't let him spread this stuff. We don't want people to know. So I do wonder, there's so much nonsense going on that we don't know about behind the scenes, that, our lives are being stage managed and we don't know anything because we only know what we're told, and what we're told isn't much. Whereas Eric did pull back the curtain and show us, the possibilities of extraterrestrial life. and he popularized the idea, which I think is a wonderful thing, because, you know, there were those, ever since Roswell, there were those 1950s science fiction movies, you know, with glowing things and awful things. There was, however, that great Michael Rennie movie, whatever it's called, where he plays basically Valiant Thor, and that was fascinating. But so many of these films present extraterrestrials as evil, terrible things who will just destroy us all and laugh as they do it. But I do have great admiration for Erich, and I think he did a wonderful thing opening the door to discussion of extraterrestrial life. And I 1000% believe that we are not alone. There are extraterrestrials. They have been helping us since the dawn of time. They did create the human race. And you know, we're basically a fishbowl for them. I don't know, you know, an aquarium. And they keep watch over us, and, you know, and what's that saying about the Greek gods, that they toy with us for sport? I wonder if maybe the aliens don't do that as well. But I totally admire Erich von Daniken, and God bless him. And he died at 90 on January 11th. And really, without him, we would still be watching ridiculous movies like, you know, glowing extraterrestrials pointing death rays at people. And so I have total admiration for him, and that's all I have to say.
Well, thank you very much. Again, eloquently and powerfully stated. And for those who listened to our show yesterday, a very apt summary and continuation of that. That was awesome, Diana.
Thank you.
And now, last but not least, we have Paul Dale Roberts. Greetings, Paul.
Paul, you're muted.
Oh, okay. Now everybody, I'm here. Okay, yeah, Erich is one of my heroes. Growing up, real quick, I lived in a haunted house as a little boy. So I became very interested in paranormal. I built this tree house in this beautiful oak tree, and I would take books by Brad Steiger up there and comic books. My friends would bring Playboys, and they said, "How come you don't look at Playboys?" Because I am interested in the paranormal. So I was reading these Brad Steiger books, another one of my heroes.
Mine too.
And 1968, a book came out called Chariots of the Gods. And I brought that up to the treehouse and I started reading it too. And I said, wow, this is really interesting. And I was living in Monterey, California, and Monterey Bay is known to have UFOs that go into the bay and UFOs that come out of the bay. So they become unidentified aerial, unidentified flying. No, I'm sorry. Unidentified submerged objects when they go into the bay. So a lot of these people were saying, hey, you know, about these UFOs. So when Chariot of the Gods came out, I started reading it and everything else. And I said, a lot of this stuff really makes sense. And if I do believe that we were visited, because if you believe in the Bible, God wasn't born on earth. He's not terrestrial. So that must make him extraterrestrial. If angels fell from the heavens, fallen angels, they are extraterrestrial. So apparently we were at least visited by extraterrestrials. How much they did for us, I don't know. But a lot of things, I mean, like the Garden of Eden sounds like some type of testing ground for a new type of hominid, which is man, Homo sapiens. I mean, just looking at things like Russia's thunderstone, that is 1,250 tons. We have three options: either We did it. We were smart enough to know how to move that stone, maybe using sound. 2, the aliens did it. Or 3, the aliens told us how to do it. I mean, all these mysteries. And it seems like Erich was trying to really open our minds and take these mysteries to the side and say, hey, let's look at this. And that's what I started doing. And then I became really curious on things that Erich was writing. I mean, the gold of the gods, history is wrong, signs of the gods. I was reading all these books. You would find them in my treehouse. The gods were astronauts, the return of the gods, and of course, 1968, Chariot of the Gods, which opened up everything. And I don't know if he wrote the book of Enoch, but I read that one too. So, yeah, if it wasn't for Erich, I wouldn't even be on the show. But I got to meet a lot of great people. Nick Pope, he endorsed some of my books. Jason Martell, I got to do a radio show with him. George Norrie, no, I did 3 articles for Coast to Coast AM on his website. And I was supposed to be on his show one time. And what was kind of funny is he couldn't hear my voice. And he goes, is Paul there? I go, George, it's me. Paul there? And I go, George, I'm right here on the telephone. And then George hung up on me and goes, I guess Paul hung up on me. I didn't hang up on you. I couldn't hear you. So anyway, after that, he never interviewed me. That was my only chance. Tim Schwartz, he's on Ancient Aliens. He's endorsed my books. I mean, if it wasn't for Tim Schwartz, I wouldn't have known Tim Beckley and Hercules Invictus. I mean, there's this whole thing that Erich von Daniken, because of him, I got to meet a lot of great people and everything else. I became a paranormal investigator. Stephen Mera, I got to meet him, and I have a column in his magazine, Phenomena Magazine. So, and I've talked to a producer over at Ancient Aliens about Mount Shasta. So because of him, he has really impacted my life. I mean, met a lot of these great people and everything else. Because of him, I've investigated Area 51, Skinwalker Ranch, Stonehenge. I became a 97 Bravo with military intelligence in South Korea. I said, if anybody knows about UFOs, it would be military intelligence. And come to find out, they knew something about UFOs. And I witnessed it. I mean, no, I didn't see a UFO, but I've seen some photographs that military intelligence has. And I've talked about this on other podcasts. So, yeah, I have a lot to thank Erich von Daniken, and rest in peace, brother. You were great.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Thank
What
you.
about you, Hercules?
What about me? Erich von Daniken influenced me by existing. I am Greek, as everybody knows, and I was raised with Greek mythology. I was programmed with Greek mythology. I was brainwashed with Greek mythology. Mythology was very much a part of my young life and still is a part of my life now in my old age. What von Daniken provided for me was another way of looking at the old myths. The Greeks didn't have the theory that they came from outer space until von Daniken and other similar books were written and translated into Greek. But the gods were tied with celestial phenomena. The names of the gods are the Romanized forms of the Olympians, and there are planets. And most of the constellations from antiquity are based after characters from Greek mythology. So the gods were part of the cosmos. They were part of the celestial sphere, and a lot of the ancient wisdom was hidden in astral mythology. So you had all that going on, and their knowledge of science is not what ours was, although it was pretty advanced for the time and age that they lived in. But in terms of impressive technological things, they had, of course, Hephaestus, who was the smith of the gods. He created their weapons, their armor, their jewelry, their devices, and so forth. But it was Daedalus, who was a human, who created marvelous inventions like um, wings that could make you fly, the labyrinth in Crete, and so forth. So humans were capable of great leaps of imagination and translating it into technologies that serve. In antiquities, they had a lot of things that we don't know that they had generally, unless you're part of this conversation. Is that they had animatronics in ancient Egypt during the Hellenistic era. Those have been described in very many ancient texts. You could put coins in machines and get hot or cold beverages. They had that. They had polished mirrors that they used to burn the sails of ships that were invading. And in the tales, Hephaestus has golden women helping him at his forge. And there was uh, a warning system named Talos that circled the island of Crete and could destroy ships that were approaching Crete with ill intent. And that was usually displayed in iconography as a mechanical man named Talos. And in the movies, he's a mechanical man, and there's all sorts of legends about him as well. So I don't buy the theory 100%, but I think, like everybody else, that he did something great in opening up these questions and these ideas to the mind of people, and uh, they've stayed there ever since. And Ancient Aliens has has had way too many seasons. I don't even know how they haven't run out of things to talk about. So I'm glad that Von Daniken existed. I tried getting him to be on one of my shows when I had a show that was focused on ancient aliens and ancient astronauts, that whole theory. I had Zachariah Sitchin's niece on because she had just put out a book and so forth. I had Nick Redfern and a bunch of other people, but I never got the chance to interview Erich von Daniken, and that saddens me. I would like to recommend that you join our Hall of Heroes because he had such an impact on us personally and onto our culture uh, more globally. Does anyone object to our making Erich von Daniken one of our heroes?
No.
No.
Of course not. No.
Therefore, he is henceforth one of our heroes, and he will be honored once a year with a special program.
Excellent.
Terrific.
Wonderful.
I think that brings us to the edges of our time together today after we get our introductions and our contact information out there. I did a piss poor job today of introducing people. So again, my fault. But
Nonsense. Cut that
say,
out.
say what you want to say about yourself, and then let people know how to contact you. And we will go opposite the way we had been proceeding, and we'll start with Paul. Paul, what would you like to say about yourself that wasn't said, and how can people find you and follow you and tap into the wondrous worlds of wonder that you open up for us?
You know, I forgot to mention another great that I met was Nick Redfern, and he has he has a few things in his books from me. So yeah, Nick, and also too, I wish I could go back in time and take all of you guys and put you in my treehouse.
I would love that. I had one too.
Love tree houses.
But anyway, yeah, you can easily find me by just Googling or Bing Paul Dale Roberts books, and you'll see some of my books on Amazon, Internet Archive, and Google Books. So anyway, I'm easy to find. If you have an investigation near me, you can contact me by my paranormal hotline, which is 916-203-7503. Thank you, everyone.
And in addition to all the things he's doing that he listed, Paul has a regularly scheduled show, All Things Paranormal, on our channel. And he also has a special show called Everyone's Comics. I think I'm getting the name wrong. Anyway, he has a comic book show too that he does as a special every now and then. He is a guest on many of our programs, and he's awesome to have on board. So thank you for all that you do, Paul, and success.
Thank you so much, Hercules. Thank you.
And now we go to Diana Montford. Greetings, Diana. How can people find you and follow you and enter your wonderful world?
Well, I have a Facebook page. You can look me up there. You can see my television show. I've been doing a television show in public access for 36 years now. 36 years now. It's called The Diana Montford Show. There are many episodes on YouTube. You can see those. And you can watch it as it happens on mnn.org, Thursday nights at 10 p.m. New York time. And we cover a lot of things, many things. Hercules is a regular guest, regular contributor. He's on probably every month, every 5 weeks. And if you want to contact me and you don't want to go through Facebook, certainly if you talk to Hercules, I will get the message. And it was a fascinating show. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for adding your insights to our conversation. You will, of course, be invited again.
Thank you.
Michael Koff.
So I am a new author. I am actually working on a new book, Deeper Insights into the Mind of Michael. It's the working title. No guarantees it'll stay that way, but I am a podcaster. I have 2 shows that I regularly do, The Energy That Surrounds Us and Writing Through the Unknown. And Paul has me as a guest on his shows every once in a while, so you can find me there. And Hercules has my link tree, which has all the best ways to get a hold of me. And I look forward to more panels with you all, and I enjoy being a part of this.
And thank you. We enjoyed having you be a part of it, and you will, of course, be invited back again.
Thank you.
Thank you for your contribution and your thoughts today. Now, Michael K. Waterman, aka Setna of Khemet. How can people find you, follow you, and enter your world?
I'm kind of all over the place these days. I'm a regular writer for Today's Witch magazine, which comes out monthly. You can get me there very easily. That's the publisher's name is Paul Edward Sott, and I've been working with them since last November. You can get me. I've done many podcasts, of course, with you, Hercules, and you can reach me this way. You can get me on Facebook at Michael K. Waterman or the Perniteru, my temple. You can get me on Phone a Wizard, which is my work on services. I'm also in Weird Times with Tim Schwartz, and I've also been on Paul's podcast from time to time. So I'm all over the
And
place.
you've been
And if
on
you
my
want me,
show, too.
yes, I've done Diana's show also too, and I hope to do more.
Yes.
I'm very easily accessed. Thank you.
Thank you. As always, you're a great asset to have on board, and thank you for being on the show today.
Most welcome. Thank you. Pleasure always.
And now we go to Alan Greenfield. Greetings, Alan. How can people find you, follow you, and enter your worlds?
Well, I am daily on, let's see, Facebook, Tumblr, X, formerly Twitter, and other places. So I'm not hard to find because I post all the time. Stuff of interest, I would call it. However, my books, which are my livelihood, I am told by my publisher you can most easily get them on Amazon, or depending on what country you're in, the local Amazon, Amazon UK or whatever. but you can find them on Barnes & Noble, or the way I like to put it is anywhere where fine books are available. Or you can simply Google my name, because I've been on the internet since it was the ARPANET. So there are thousands of entries, many of them lies, but a few of them truthful. There I am.
And Alan is truly a magus of renown and legend, and many of the tales told of him. I'm waiting to coordinate things with Olaf, and once Olaf and I can coordinate things, there will be a series of special episodes that focus on his very interesting books. So I'm looking forward to that.
Hope
And
they're
thank you,
interesting.
and thank you for joining this adventure. It's certainly been very interesting always, but since you joined, there's been a whole new dimension to that interest.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
And last but certainly not least, Tim Swartz, the legendary, the renowned, the one, the only.
A legend in his own mind, Tim
Oh,
Swartz.
in our minds as well.
Well, thank you, Hercules. Well, you can find all of my books. Probably the easiest way would be on Amazon.com. Just go and type in my name, Tim R. Swartz, and they'll all come tumbling out for your reading pleasure, both print and ebooks. Right now, I am working on getting my website up, which is timrswartz.com. Right now, it's basically just a bunch of placeholder stuff. So if you go there, you'll find a few of my book covers, and then just kind of like some gobbledygook that the the website builder just put up till I actually get in there and do something. I am right now currently frantically trying to get our latest book finished, which Hercules, Paul, Michael all have chapters in this book, and I will announce officially on this show. The title of the book is called The Persistence of Ghost, a cross-cultural study of ghost behavior from ancient times to the modern era. And in this book, once again, Hercules, Paul, Michael, all have chapters in this book. So, and myself included, of course. So this should be coming out hopefully in the next month or so. Right now, I'm waiting for Fred Anderson, who is a Swedish researcher, to write a foreword for us. And as soon as that is finished, then hopefully I'll get this book out and published.
Thank you very much, Tim. It's always a pleasure to have you on board, and you're an awesome individual. I must say that I've been published in several Zontar Press books, anthologies, and I'm greatly honored to be part of that noble effort. And before then, I was published in nearly 20 of the books Tim did with the other Tim Beckley. So I'm glad to be part of that library. That was a dream of mine when I was a youngster, to be part of the intrepid band of investigators who investigated and wrote about things in books with lurid titles and lurid covers. So thank you, Tim, for helping to make that dream come true. I can be found on YouTube and on Facebook and through Google. And most recently, I published a book through Llewellyn, again, an anthology, and it was called, my chapter was called I Was a Teenage Theurgist. It's a book on theurgy. So thank you to everybody. Happy New Year. And I wish everybody the best for the year ahead. And I look forward to part of what we're doing being the best in the year ahead. So have a wonderful evening, everybody. And thank you.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank
Happy
you.
New Year, everyone.
Happy
Good
New Year.
night.
Blessed be, and life, health, and prosperity.